Welcome into the Chasing Trails podcast, brought to you by St. John Trail Running and powered by Resilience Through Fitness. Join two middle-aged dads as they sit down and talk trail running, life, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff LeBlanc and Brandon Thompson. Welcome in, everyone, to another great episode of the Chasing Trails podcast. You've got Jeff LeBlanc here, Brandon Thompson with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. We've got a great episode today, Jeff. We've got Kelsey Hogan and Adam Fearnall, and we're excited to be able to have them talk about their races in the UTMB series, and it's going to be a great conversation. But just quickly, how are you making out? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm back to some consistent gym time, and I've been making sure that I get on the treadmill pretty well every day for some time, and but just lifting some weights and doing what feels good right now. And I think that's kind of where I am and where I'm able to put some time in right now with what we're, still doing some work around the house and getting ready for a new baby coming at the end of the month or the end of October. And so life just feels busy. So for me to get down to the gym for 40 minutes or an hour and 15 or something like that and get a short, run in to warm up and then lift some weights and then run to cool down or just to finish off my workout seems to be working pretty good. I'm able to do it fairly consistently. So that's good. That's kind of where I'm at. And whether I do any more races this year is yet to be told, but we'll have to see. But I'm not really training for anything specific right now. So I'm just trying to keep a good baseline. That's the goal right now. So.
Yeah. My feet are just starting to recover. I got in like a little 3 kilometer just to see how they felt, because It's really been pretty raw ever since the Looney Loops. But they're
started peeling off from the blisters.
Oh yeah, it's all gone, and my toenail's gone. So it's been pretty much back to like regenerative mode now, and so it's starting to feel pretty normal.
Which toenail did you lose?
The second one. So the one, not the big toe, but the one right beside.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it felt okay. Legs still felt a little heavy, I'm not going to lie, but that was probably more to do with gym stuff. I, like you, have gotten back to the gym, started doing some of the weights. I think more focus for me over the next couple of months is going to be around weight loss and not so much around running as much, but all to go towards running, like trying to cut some of that weight. I get a kick out of these people who go like all these rucks and stuff like that, where they run with a weighted vest and stuff like that. I'm like, we do that every day. Like, that's not a big deal.
Like us.
Yeah, that's right. We're just rucking. We're ruck every day when we go.
Make it worse. Yeah. That's true. I did squats the other day, and I tell you, I was surprised with how much fatigue was still in my legs. Actually, it was Saturday morning, so it would have been a week. It was exactly 7 days from Looney Loops, and I was very surprised how much fatigue was still being felt in my legs from. I didn't notice it during the week as much, but yeah, as soon as I started doing squats with a barbell on my back, I was like, "Ooh,
yeah, no juice there." Yeah, no juice there.
Yeah.
So, I did notice that. I was like, I feel really still kind of sluggish. But, so working towards that. And I think it's a good thing to be focusing my energy on right now. And really feel pretty positive about it so far. I'm not a slave to the calorie tracker, but definitely changing how I eat and have been able to kind of handle that pretty well. But anyway, we're excited because today we're not going to spend a lot of time chit-chatting today because we have a great conversation with Kelsey and Adam, and so we're going to turn it over to them as they tell us about their great run. But we hopefully will be able to see some of you at some of the races coming up in the winter or like late fall, I guess, fall area. And as you guys get ready for that, we hope you'll find this story inspiring. Just like we did when we were having that conversation. So we'll turn it over to Kelsey and Adam. We are thrilled to welcome into the Chasing Trails studios once again Adam Fearnall and Kelsey Hogan. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We're glad that we can have you on the show once again.
Thanks for having us back. We're excited to chat with you both.
Yeah, it's been probably a year since we talked to you, and there's been a lot that's happened since the last time we had you on the show. We've seen you at a couple of different races, and so that's been super fun. It's been great having you whiz past us as we're doing our race through Romp and Rockwood. That was fantastic. I got to see you head towards the finish line. That was great, and but it's been a big year, and we wanted to sit down and have a chat with you guys because both of you were involved in races with UTMB this year. And so we're thrilled to be able to have that conversation with you. We just want to hear about your adventure because it judging by like some of the Instagram posts that you shared, which was fantastic, by the way. You gave us like that checkpoint updates and everything. We were hooked on that. It's going to be a really cool insight to see it from your point of view. And so I just want to start off by asking you guys. I mean, you've been to France a couple of times now for UTMB. How has the preparation going up to this set of races been for you this time? I mean, because now you've got some experience to compare it to. How was your training leading into these races? Like, how did you feel with all the packing and all that kind of stuff, the travel? What was that like for you guys? Adam, maybe you could start off.
Yeah, I guess the real difference this year was that I decided to run. So that
Right.
threw a new wrinkle into the works for us this year. We are fortunate to have some relationships with people over there in France, in Chamonix, around Chamonix, where we run. So it's a little bit easier to wrap our heads around going there and now compared to the very first year we went. So this year was cool because we felt like we were going back to a place that we knew a little bit. And we actually went literally right back to the same Airbnb host that we stayed with the previous year. And Kelsey had done a great job of staying in touch with her through the year. And so that was a really nice feeling as we were thinking about going over again, to be able to go somewhere familiar and feel a little bit like we were going. I mean, it feels amazing to say, but almost to a little home away from home.
Mm. Wow, that was cool.
Yeah, it was definitely for me going back to the same race now for the third year in a row too. Um, I crossed the finish line last year, and I my crew can vouch for it. Almost right away, I went, "Oh, it's a puzzle, and there's more that I want to give to this race." And so I had a great race last year and really enjoyed it and learned from it, and knew that I wasn't done with UTMB and this course. It just like there's something incredible about running in the Alps and running through three countries, starting and finishing in the same place. So it's kind of all about the journey. And so going back this year, I had some goals and some learning in my pocket about how I wanted to prepare for the race differently. And one of the big changes that I made this year was not running a 100-miler in the lead up to this race in my season. And I love the 100-mile distance. It's my favorite. I like to say it's kind of my sweet spot, and it's where all my favorite things kind of get to happen in the mountains. You get to see more of the places that you travel. And so I built a race season leading up to it that I prioritized a couple of different things in my training. A lot of speed early on. I even, took up 5K road racing for the local elite 5K in the spring, and then switched over to mountains and ran the Canadian 80-kilometer trail championships at QMT in July, and used kind of my build of my season to prepare to lead to this race.
Mm.
And by the time August rolled around, I was itching. Like I wanted to run 100 miles. I was feeling rested and recovered, and like I'd put in some really consistent training weeks. We went for a family vacation for a little bit in Newfoundland and used that as kind of a mini training camp in the mountains back where I grew up too. So I was feeling just charged up on all of my local favorite places to run, and sprinkling in New Brunswick trail races through the season too is just giving us that sense of energy and community leading into it. Yeah, prioritizing recovery and some of those specific training pieces leading into it. Yeah, by the time the race rolled around, I was feeling honestly calm. I was
Yeah.
so relaxed, and I race week, I think this year I looked different. I acted different. I just felt a sense of preparedness, and like I could really trust my experience and trust how I was showing up, and I was ready to race.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you feel that sense of calm, Adam? What was your experience like for just doing it for the first time? I mean, it's got to be a little nerve-wracking.
Well, I think for me, the journey to the start line of my race began when I came home from a run. It was in the either late winter or early spring or something like that. And I came back and I was feeling this sense of regret that I wasn't signed up to run over in Chamonix. And the previous 2 years I'd gone as a crew member, not with any intention to run. And that had been my mindset for the most part heading into this third year, was that I was going to go and we were going to crew again and put Kelsey in the best position that we could for her to have a great day. And I had that little feeling of regret, and I was really past the last minute to be able to race this one. And I have the good fortune of having somebody with a little bit of ability to help you get into a race. And so I was able to get some help from Kelsey to find my way onto the start line of TDS. And I I uh, I then had this thing sitting on my calendar in August that suddenly became a real organizing point for the rest of my year. And at that point, I had already made a decision that I was going to work with a coach for the first time,
Okay.
and that I was going to run my first road marathon. And that was really my big goal when I decided to do TDS. The goal was actually run a marathon and do that distance at speed for the first time, and really kind of have that support from a coach. And so I started working with Catherine Cochran, who's a coach with Mile to Marathon based in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, actually.
Yeah.
And I've been working towards that. And so really I kind of talked it over a bit with Catherine, and we built a season and a training plan that began really with, I think it was Hanwell hammering maybe just the week before the Fredericton Marathon, and then the Fredericton Marathon. And then my season looked fairly similar to Kelsey's. I usually picked a distance one shorter than Kelsey at all of the races we did, other than QMT. So I guess it was the 25K at Gaspé, and Kelsey did the 54K. Then we both did the 80K at QMT. I did the 25K at Rockwood, and Kelsey did the 50.
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of just tried to work myself towards the 100-mile start line at UTMB with a healthy body and a reasonably healthy mind, and the ability to train hard all the way through the summer to get myself there. So to answer your question about was I calm, I was relatively calm, honestly, by the time I got to the start line. I was confident that I had put the work in, that I could do the distance. I've done the distance before. The climbing was going to be new for me.
Right.
It was over 9,000 meters of climbing, which was about 2,000 more than I'd ever done in a race prior to that. So that was a little bit of an unknown, but I just knew it was going to hurt for a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, I think I was for the most part calm. We can talk about it if it's interesting, but I would say I didn't feel calm about 3 weeks out from the race.
Yeah.
I worked through that and got to the start line feeling pretty prepared.
Okay. Before I do want to get to that, but I want to just hear a little bit about logistics. Like how do you logistically get ready to go to Europe? Do you, with like your nutrition? Like, do you pack like an extra suitcase like with just nutrition and all your running gear and stuff like that? Like, and how do you build those connections with the Airbnbs? Like, like seeing your spot was like this beautiful chalet. It was like the Sound of Music kind of deal, right? Like you just had the mountains everywhere and it just looked amazing. So how does that work? Like, do you get connected from experience and those sort of things? So just kind of walk me through some of the logistics of actually going to Europe to run.
I'll take nutrition. You take Airbnb.
Sure.
Okay. Nutrition side, I am constantly worrying about how much nutrition we're bringing over and whether or not we can we bring a little less and buy a little more there. I'm looking online to find out if I can source the stuff that we use regularly over there, so I don't have to take as much over in a suitcase. Um, That said, we still usually bring some stuff with us because there's just stuff that you can't get over there. And also there's just that comfort level of you want to have enough in case you can't find it the way that you expect to. That said, like one of the big keys that we've learned about this race in particular is that you're going to kind of like the center of the trail running universe for a period of time. And so if you are fortunate enough to have a few dollars in your bank account, if you don't have something with you that you really need, you can usually find it and buy it there. And it's not usually too much more expensive than if you'd bought it here and brought it with you. So that's one of the ways we deal with the logistics of getting over. But I will say that one of my hopes is then that we get there, we then eat everything that we've brought, so we have extra space in our suitcase when we go back, because inevitably Kelsey ends up with 3 more pairs of shoes or something like that. But I will admit that I was a particular problem this year for that strategy, because I purchased enough stuff such that if I delivered on my fueling plan, I would have nothing left. But then, of course, I ate nothing close to what I had purchased, and so we had to send an extra bag back with 2 of our crew members,
Gotcha.
with basically just nutrition and shoes. So
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, from like the accommodations and travel side of things, there is a nice sense of familiarity going back to somewhere we've been before. But even I would say the first year that I went, talking to other runners that were there about like tips on which parts of the valley to stay in, based on how much time we had. For me, like I like to scout sections of the course in advance if I can. So I kind of look at, what places are available within like train or bus to some of the places that I might want to run in advance. And yeah, this year we knew that we wanted to get up early enough to have enough time for Adam to run ahead of his race, in addition to me having some time on the course before mine. And TDS, Adam's race, started 4 days before mine. So that meant we bumped our travel time to get up there, yeah, nice and early to settle in, recover from the jet lag, acclimatize a little bit. It's not super high altitude. We were staying at about 1,800 meters, and my race maxed out at about 2,800 meters, but often was sort of up and down. And yeah, last year when we stayed there, we just found a lovely looking Airbnb and stayed in touch with our hosts, Claire and Jean-Marc. And this year we booked it as soon as I knew I was going back, and it was nice. So every morning we would wake up to the horse and the pony outside, and yeah, they welcomed us back like family, and even came out to meet me during the race and followed along with both of our races.
Oh, amazing.
After we moved to our crew accommodations after. And their location is perfect. They're familiar with the race, and we could just hop out the backyard and go right on the final sections of the UTMB course. And getting around the valley there is super. There's trains everywhere, and the UTMB week itself, the race organizes mobility and buses for everyone to be able to get around. So
Yeah.
make that
Very
part
cool.
a little bit easy.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so we want to hear all about the races, and so maybe we'll start with Adams, because his was chronologically first. So, and just so we're clear, I'm going to try and say the name of this race. So the Trace de Duc de Savoie. That's somewhere around there, right? So if you're French, I'm sorry, I apologize for what I said, but TDS for short, right? TDS hosted by UTMB. So tell us, you had kind of given us a little hint about like some of the feelings beforehand, and so kind of start us from there and walk us through your race, because it sounds like yours had a ton of climbing in it. So fill us in. How was that for you?
Yeah, to start with the feelings of discomfort, it actually is interesting we started out talking about logistics, because I would say that a lot of the feelings of discomfort that I had 3 weeks out from the race related to the cumulative toll of the logistics and of the choices that I had made through the summer to prioritize training for this race and preparing for this race and, quite frankly, funding this race. And there was just a moment for me about 3 weeks out where I sort of describe it as I got whacked over the head by an awareness of all of those little choices. And there was like one more purchase I had to make. I was buying 60 more gels, because this race requires you to carry a lot of nutrition with you. So my race plan required me to, or needed me to carry about 100 gels throughout the race at, divvied up through aid stations. So I was ordering these 60 gels and I just went, not another insert number of dollars. And,
Yeah, that's right.
just that night, it kind of all came crashing down on me. And I, like, it's such a privilege to be able to do the race and to have had the choice to do it. But there was just this, I sort of describe it like parts of me that wish that I had done something else, or could imagine another set of choices I had made that summer, to write more songs, or I don't know, call my friends more often, or not go on that training run and watch a Blue Jays game, or whatever it was. And I mean, these are all like really wonderful choices to be able to make, but that's what was kind of going on for me that 3 weeks out. I was going, wow, all of this stuff that I don't love to use this word, but it's one actually my dad used in talking about running, like all these sacrifices to stick to this plan and to like meet this goal. And so I was kind of, worried I maybe had like turned into kind of a selfish jerk of a person over the course of that training block, and all that stuff was just colliding before the race. And I had a big chat with Kelsey about it, and, cried some tears, and um, and went out for a run the next day. And ate a few gels, and we were back into it for the most part. But that's kind of what I'm referring to there. So.
Okay. I think we can all relate to that to a degree. Some of the things you have to change in order to do those races.
Yeah. So that's that. And then, I can take you to the race.
Yeah. Take us there. Yeah. I want to hear it.
I mean, as you know, I could just talk about emotions for the whole time.
That's Jeff's favorite topic. That's Jeff's favorite topic, to talk about our feelings. So we'll give him a chance to respond after. It'll be great.
All right, to the sporting part. So my race started in a place called Courmayeur, which is in Italy, and it starts at basically midnight, 10 minutes to midnight. And part of the reason it starts at midnight is so that you're on the course in daylight in some of the more dangerous spots or tricky spots, and it gives everybody in the field a chance to move through that area safely. I think that's one of the reasons it starts at midnight. So that meant that I had to kind of, at least the way I chose to approach it was I simulated, I kind of pretended like midnight was, how did I do it? I pretended like midnight was my morning or something like that. So I got up the day before the race. I had what I thought of as dinner. And then actually, whether this was a good strategy or not, I chose to give my digestive system a rest for almost like a nighttime of sleep. So I did a few things, and then I gave my digestive system a rest. I went to bed. I had kind of quiet time for like 5.5 or 6 hours, lights off, blinds closed, put a podcast in. I actually had about probably 90 minutes of actual sleep, which I felt like was pretty good. And then I woke up and threw the last things together, had a banana, a few other little pieces of food, and drank a few electrolytes, sipped on some water, and then went to take a bus over to Courmayeur. And I took that bus over with a few members of my crew. We divided my crew into two, had one crew go out and follow me from the start until about kilometer 100. So they were midnight to about 10 p.m. And then we had another crew come out from the other side and meet me. They overlapped with that group at 100K and took over and did 100K to the finish. And so the race starts like in the streets of Courmayeur, this old Italian town. You run along some cobblestones, and when the start gun goes off, for me, I was in wave 2. So they organized everybody in terms of elite, wave 1 and wave 2. And based on, they call it a UTMB index, my score, I was categorized into wave 2. And so we were behind just a little piece of tape. And so we had to wait for maybe a couple of minutes while the elites started and the wave 1 went, and then we went. And so you go on these cobblestone streets, and you're mostly just wanting to make sure that you don't trip at that point. You don't run into a gutter or like trip on a grate. And then the race kind of wound through. I mean, there's tons of people. That's one of the things that stands out. Like a lot of people at the start lining the course. It's pretty narrow and lots of cheering, and it's all very exciting. So you run through the streets. And then you get out towards kind of a ski hill, and you make a climb up that ski hill. And that's about a hour long, 50-minute climb, or 50-minute, hour long section. And that's the one where you, in the middle of the night, if you're thinking about it, you turn around, and I did this, you turn around and you look behind you and just go, whoa, look at all the headlamps. You look
Yeah.
ahead
It's
of you and you go,
amazing.
whoa, look at all the headlamps. And that's just a cool moment.
About
when you
2,000
do that.
runners with a snake of twinkling.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Great. It's very cool. And so the weather was pretty good at the start of my race. Not too bad at all. And I don't know, maybe like on the cool side, maybe like 14 degrees or 15 degrees, I think, at the start. And then we climbed up that first climb, and went pretty well for me. I was pretty happy with how it went. I knew not to be worried about being stuck in a long line of people. It was just going to take a bit of time for the field to spread out.
Mhm.
And yeah, you reach that first one, and for me, I didn't really need to do anything there. I had run that section in training, so I kind of knew what was going on with that area. And so I mostly just went straight through that aid station. I didn't really stop too much, because I knew that I'd be able to make the second aid station on the stuff that I had with me. And you get into that second aid station, and I guess it would have been about, I'm looking at my times here, it would have been like almost 2 hours from the start, and about 12 kilometers in. Uh, or actually, that would have been the top of a climb. So the second aid station would have been at 16K, and got into that. Still felt pretty good. These aid stations they're reasonably big. They've got like trays of cheese and bars and electrolyte mix and stuff all over the place.
Lots of cheese and bread and sausage. Yeah, they're big on that.
So I ate none of that because I had my 60 gels.
Right.
I did start with about 36 gels, I think, in my pack, 36 servings of carbs, because I was really trying to hit a high number of carbs.
And you were motivated to lighten your load by eating them.
I was.
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, it all went pretty good. I got through the night. I met up with a young woman from BC, and we were is a flatter section, and there were people just kind of like whipping past us like really fast, and we were having a nice chat, and we had both heard like, don't get tricked by the first 50K of this race, like save something. And so having that nice conversation with her like helped me to stay within myself, and I think for both of us helped us to just like chill out, and not like get caught up in the intensity of the beginning of a race. And that we ran together for probably about, I don't know, probably 8 kilometers or so, and got into like, I would say, I guess the next full aid station at about 36 kilometers, about 20 minutes to 6 in the morning. So just about 6 hours into my race. And from there, I knew it was going to be, it's pretty much straight downhill to the 50K mark of the race, and actually, when I say straight downhill, I actually mean runnable in this case, like like it was an easier, flowy down, from about 35 or 36K to about 51K. And that was going to be in a town called Bourg Saint Maurice. And as the sun was coming up, I was running that section. And again, like a lot of people really fly on that section, because you're just like, the sun's coming up, you're starting to get that boost of, wow,
Yeah.
I made it through the first night, and you can burn your legs out, I think, a little bit. And so I'd been warned against that, and I just I ran it quickly, but not at full speed. And yeah, it was a nice feeling. You see the sun come up, it's like a full town, it's not like a full city really. Yeah, I got down out of the mountains and met up with my crew for the first time there. So I had seen them. They had been able to follow along and cheer at one spot through the night. So I'd seen them once, but they hadn't been able to help me or give me anything or do anything
until 50K.
Yeah. So that's a bit of one of the unique features of TDS, is there's long stretches where you don't get crewed.
Yeah. Wow.
So maybe
this has been a cool feeling to see them, though.
Great to see them.
Yeah.
And like worth it to see them when they couldn't crew me as well. I remember standing there, I was like filling up my water, and they were on the other side of a fence, and I could talk to them, and I was having trouble getting my water into my pack, and I just remember saying, oh, like how hard is it for you not to be able to help me right now? Because it was like I know I'm struggling with this, and I'm gonna get it, but it must be really annoying to watch me try to get this very simple thing done when you're standing right there.
And they could send updates too. So, knowing that people were following the dot at home, just like a little photo of Adam at one point along the course from the crew that could see him was nice for everyone, even the rest of us that weren't with him the whole race. So, a couple of photos along the way that they could share and some insight into how he was feeling was a nice contribution.
For sure. For sure. Sorry. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so then you come out of the 50K mark, and one of the things that I've learned from Kelsey and just hanging around all of these elite runners is that in and out of aid stations is like your best bet to kind of keep your race moving and keep yourself placed in the field reasonably well. And so I was about 15 minutes of rest in that 50K aid station, and I would say like, I could have been a bit faster, but I was probably still on the faster end of people at my part of the race stopping there. So we sometimes say like I try to take my aid stations like an elite, but I don't run in the elite part of the field. We'll say yet, but so I left out of Bourg Saint Maurice, and we had Kelly Nicole Croucher, who's a runner here in Fredericton. She was my crew person in that aid station. I was met by Kelly's partner Stephen, and he ran me in to the aid station and kind of gave me some encouragement, checked in to see how I was doing, and I'd done kind of something similar to what Kelsey had done last year at UTMB, and assigned a person to each aid station, a different person to come in and support me. So Kelly Nicole was that person. We did a good change. I changed a shirt and put on a different hat. I totally blanked on putting on sunscreen, and then immediately went out and climbed a totally exposed, 2,000 meters up in the sun, and wasn't going to see my crew until the evening. So that was one small error that annoyed me slightly as I started my climb. I went, oh, yeah, it's going to be a while.
That's great, right?
But, anyway. So you leave the 50K mark and you start this really, really long climb. It just feels like it goes and goes and goes and goes. Just very little tree cover. It's very Sound of Music at times. Like you would be like looking up, and all you could see was the top of the hill, and you knew you were going over the other side. So I mean, that was very cool. Also very demoralizing for a brief moment. That was a hard climb for me. It wasn't super hot, but it was very sunny, and I just kind of felt like my energy was a bit zapped, and like I said, it just kind of went on for forever. And even when you get your moments of descent on this kind of a course, they're not necessarily like the flowy descent that I experienced into Bourg Saint Maurice. They were very technical, couldn't get a lot of speed going on, was taking a lot of muscular work to navigate them. So they're very effortful, and they're not that like, oh, sweet, it's downhill kind of feeling that you sometimes get. So through that section, just very challenging. There's a place called the Passeur de Pralognan, which is a fairly notorious part of the course. And that's kind of I guess, like one of the peaks of this big climb. And I got there, and in order to go down there, they make you stow your poles, and you have to grab onto a metal chain, and you just kind of get yourself down safely.
Right.
So I did that, and then got into the next aid station at Cormet de Roseland, and I saw my crew there. Wasn't able to get support there, but saw them. And I said something to them along the lines of like, you're going to have to work pretty hard to get me out of the 100K aid station, because that was really hard.
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't like thinking about not finishing, but I just knew that it was going to be tough to get from this aid station was about 66K to about that 100K mark, and it was going to be a lot of work. So I left there and went out and had probably the most difficult section of my race there, the lowest mental section of the race, where my energy was the lowest. I had a moment where I stopped on the side of a mountain, and sent a text to Kelsey and just said, hey, like, I'm going to need you in this next aid station. I'm going to need my partner. I'm going to need I need an ultra runner's perspective on things. And I was experiencing some like shortness of breath, maybe from the altitude, maybe from low iron. And I was kind of a little worried about, how my body was handling the muscle breakdown. So I was worried a bit about like rhabdo.
Mhm.
And then I was going real slow. And so all those things together just kind of, made me feel like I was going to have to problem solve. And to be honest, I had also worked out what my speech would be if I was going to stop at that point. I like worked my way past that pretty quickly, but I had the speech.
Right.
It was there. I sent that little text and asked for a little bit of advice. Kelsey gave me some pretty clear advice, and I followed it. Drank some electrolyte water, had a salt tab, and like whether that did anything or just my spirits rose, I kind of found my legs again. And by the time I hit that 100K, 95K aid station, I had like actually done some running, and my spirits were up again. Um, but I took quite a long time there. I took about 45 minutes at that aid station.
About 20 minutes of which were waiting in line for the bathroom, I would say.
For the
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the single stall in a aid station where there were like 300 people at a time there, after 100K of the race. So there were maybe a few more we discovered later outside of the building that I could have probably found my way to. But yes, I did stand there thinking it was very important that I use the bathroom at that point in the race. So it was only moderately important, but it gave me a chance to reset like mind, body, and spirit, and so, yeah, they kicked me out of that aid station about I guess about 7 o'clock at night.
After you'd eaten a full piece of pizza,
That's
I want
right.
to say.
Yeah, full piece
There
of
you go.
pizza. I drank a good portion of a slushie they'd managed to bring in a Lululemon, like what do you call those, insulated bottle, all the way from Chamonix. Yeah, ate some olives. Olives seem to always work for me during a race.
When
Salt.
Adam had sent his text, I actually messaged our sport dietitian, Melissa Allen, for support. You guys have had her on the show.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, for sure.
And right away, like, from a SOS text and the middle of the race, she was like, okay, what's he feeling? What does he need? And her advice had been, get some food in him. And he did a good job with that.
Awesome.
And like to give you an idea, right, about this like sort of aid station thing, like I was there for 45 minutes, but I gained 46 positions coming out of
Wow.
that aid station. So going in, I was 482. Going out, I was 436. And so it just kind of like, people drop at that kind of section. So that's part of it. But it also is just a reminder that if you can keep moving through an aid station, it can really help you. So then the next like aid station for me, my race kind of actually, it took on like the character that would define it for like the rest of the time I spent on the trails. And the reason I say that is because I met a guy from Australia who he just kind of struck up a conversation with me. And again, we're about, I think it's the 101K mark. And, we started chatting, and as it would turn out, we would run the rest of the race together. So we did the last like 50K together all the way through the night. And we never really talked about that's what we were going to do. Just kind of, we realized after 6 hours that we were still together, and thought that it was working pretty well. And we, in our slightly addled state, weren't on each other's nerves too much, and we're actually helping one another, pull ourselves up the hills and down the other side and back up the hills again. So that was amazing to have that. I never really experienced that in a long distance race. The first time I'd experienced that kind of camaraderie on the trail was actually at Rockwood in my first 50K there, and I met Brian Head among.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, you can talk with him the whole 50K for sure.
Well, and with love, like, and also Brian can talk to you for the whole 50K too. And so, yeah, so Brian was a big part of that first experience for me. And Greg Shearett, who is the guy I met at this race, he was a huge part of this race for me. He had some really great climbing sections that helped me to really push myself to keep dragging my legs up the mountain. And I think probably one of the things I was able to contribute was just that mindset around, let's keep going, let's keep moving, let's not get stuck in this aid station. And there was never really any question for me from that point on whether we were finishing. We knew we were going to finish. I knew we were going to finish. And I owe some of that mental strength to Kelsey's approach to running, to watching her do it, and being able to develop my own approach to it. But through that night, I mean, there were some hairy moments. Like there was thunder and lightning in the area, and they'd actually made a course change just prior to the start of my race. It was on the day of my race. Of the start, they changed the course to avoid a more exposed area because they were worried about lightning storms. And so, middle of the night, we're on like this very scrambly, very loose rock, totally straight up exposed cliff, and we get a rumble of thunder and some lightning.
And rain.
Yeah, and some rain. So I did have rain off and on throughout the race as well. But that last night, a fair amount of rain, especially up at the top of, there was a climb called Le Signal, and we got up there and it was not super cold, not warm. We're talking like probably single digits, but high single digits, I would say. And the rain was doing the sort of sideways thing that it does when the wind is blowing. So that was fun. I'd had some experience at Madeira with sideways rain and colder temperatures the previous year, and so I kind of knew what to do. Felt pretty calm about it, but it added another layer of challenge to descents in particular because there was mud and everything was all the way slippery, and so again, just another way that you knew you were going to spend more time out there than maybe you wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, rest of the race went pretty well. We got to the final aid station, and I had this. It was a flat section back to Chamonix, roughly flat. I mean, at that point, it felt like it had hills, but it was basically flat. And I'd set a goal before the race of trying to run it in under an hour. It was like about an 8K section, and on any given day, that would be something that I would expect myself to be able to do. But after 140K, I wasn't sure I was going to have it. But we did it. So we did it in about 56 minutes, and really cool moment just before we got to the finish line is we did actually have a chat about how we're going to do this finish line thing. Greg and I, we're going to go together. Do we want to each have our own moment? And the finish of this race is fun because it goes right through the town of Chamonix. People are out doing their morning stuff. I mean, that's a function of when you finish. I suppose if I'd finished earlier, they wouldn't have been doing their morning things. One of the benefits of finishing a little later was that people were out and about, and so we did decide that we wanted to have that experience sort of on our own, and so we decided that I would go first, and so away I went through the streets, and I had good finishing legs. So I had a little felt like sprinting, whether it was or not is only for the tape to reveal. But
it looked pretty speedy.
Yeah. So great to see the crew at the finish line, and nice feeling of accomplishment and just kind of gratitude. I think as I finished, I noticed that I was aware as I was doing it that I kind of did like a skyward look when I crossed the finish line, and I think it was just like a sense of being kind of connected to something a little bigger, and however you want to feel that or understand that. And just a real appreciation for, I think, everything that it had taken to get to that point, and an appreciation for all the people that had contributed in various ways to me getting there.
Yeah.
So,
that's amazing. Amazing. And so, Kelsey, you're getting ready for your own race while he's going through all this. I mean, you got called in for the 911, come meet me at the aid station, but were you tracking along with his crew the whole time, or were you trying to dial in for your own race?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the amazing support that we had, knowing that we were doing these back-to-back races. And I think sort of everyone understood that I had some pretty big goals for my race. And so part of their support in my race was supporting Adam's race and allowing me to actually sleep through both nights. So the way we structured it and the way we kind of knew he was maybe going to work out with his timing was that we sent him off to the bus to Italy, and I, stayed up in bed till I saw him pass through the first aid station, watching the tracker like all of you, and then managed to sleep and then wake up and, see where he was somewhere in the morning. And then me and my mom and dad and my brother, who also were crewing the second half of Adam's race, hopped on a bus to go and meet him at that 100K mark. So I knew I was going to go see him there either way. And the plan was going to be that Lori, our mental performance coach, was going to meet him in there. But when we got the text, she said, "Oh no, yep, Kelsey, we're here to support you, to support him." And then I left that aid station with sort of the crew that had been following Adam the whole time. My parents carried on with my brother to crew Adam through to the finish, and we all went home and had another full night's sleep so we could wake up in the morning and see him finish.
That's
And
awesome.
I was able to sleep, I think, knowing that he was in good hands. And but it's hard when I think crewing is more stressful than running, because
Yeah.
I'm just there watching and wondering and seeing the thunder and lightning and hoping that he's okay and knowing that he's prepared and able to handle it. But yeah, it was actually sort of a nice distraction ahead of my race, I think, because I felt so prepared. I didn't feel like I needed to do anything in that time, and I knew that that was going to be the structure of the week, and we'd done a lot of preparation ahead of time to plan how it was going to work, and it sort of all followed the plan pretty well, I would say.
What was it like watching him cross the finish line?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was like I sort of had an out of body experience. Like he was so excited and he was in such good spirits, and I think, I felt a lot of pride in him and his approach. I think through all of the preparation and through all of the ups and downs of his race, he still had such good spirits the whole time. Like it was just really impressive and inspiring to watch that and to share in it and get to support his race a little bit.
That's awesome. So we've got Adam across the finish line, and now it's your turn to go. So tell us about your experience. How'd you feel towing the line and getting ready to go, and walk us through your race?
Yeah, I mean, so we get Adam back from his race. We have he finished Wednesday morning, and my race started Friday evening at 6 p.m. So we had basically a couple days in there to rest and prep, and sort of like Adam switched from runner mode to crew mode honestly pretty quickly, I would say. He had a good few sleeps and then was just ready to start supporting my race. Uh, and yeah, my Friday morning, I kept it pretty calm as well. I had my bags packed pretty well. I sort of was writing out my plan all through Thursday of what I would want from my crew at each aid station, what nutrition I wanted, and I had everything prepped. So we ran through it as a team, and then I was running through it and visualizing what I wanted to do during my race, sort of through that day. And then I also sort of similar to Adam had a kind of a lighter lunch and breakfast, and then went to sleep and had a bit of a nap, and woke up, and we were about a 30-minute walk from our crew chalet over to the start line. So we made our way there, and this year we were actually on the opposite side of where we'd stayed last year and got stuck in the crowds. And to get to because of my ranking heading into this race, they have a separate corral for
Mm-hmm.
the elite 2 category racers, where I could go and line up sort of just ahead of the start line.
Yeah.
But we got stuck behind crowds to get there. So actually, some of the race officials let me through the like beginning of the race to get over to the start, which was kind of a wild experience in itself. Just these thousands of people lining up to start, and I walked backwards towards the start line and got to experience the sounds and everything. And yeah, about 30 minutes before the race, I made my way there, and the energy is just unmatched. There's I think the start line music of UTMB, they play this incredibly like sort of emotional, powerful music. But pre that, for about 30 minutes straight, there is this like booming, powerful music that is just like my heart was pounding out of my chest. And I knew that it was going to have that energy, so I tried to soak it in and ground myself in where I was and notice the sounds and sort of breathe it in and let it energize me, because I was excited and felt ready for it. And yeah, lining up in that corral was really fun this year. I was looking around and noting other runners that I've had the honor of racing with, and especially noting a lot of the women that I've been inspired by, and the elite women at this state of the sport and this time in the sport are just incredible. And to be among them and be among peers, but also among people that I've looked up to for a long time was really special. And I kind of had that experience a lot in this race of just finding myself in the mix with these elite women and feeling like a sense of belonging, and I think friendship and camaraderie, and this support from everyone. I know, it's a race and there's competition in it, but people really support each other. And even just at the start line, I felt that, and that was really special.
Yeah.
And then for me, right off the start, about like 10 steps off the start line, just as we take our first corner, someone cut sort of in front of me and I tripped and face planted
Oh no.
into the ground. And I had this moment of like my face was numb and I thought I'd broken my teeth. I actually have 2 fake front teeth from a bike accident a number of years ago. And everything was numb and I thought that my race was over then, like just right as soon as it had started. And so in this moment of the crowds of people, no one was able to stop. It's just kind of the stampede. So I picked myself up and had to sort of keep moving with it, all while like touching my face and seeing if I was bleeding, and everything was kind of okay. And I think it sort of spooked me more than anything.
Yeah.
And I had some bruises from it, but that was the only fall the whole race. So I got it off the start
Out of the way.
and then was able to keep going. And then one of my goals this year was, I think kind of based off my race last year, I took the start steady last year, knowing that I wanted to have legs for the finish. And I felt as though I could have made up time in that section. And so this year I approached the start with confidence, and that I could run it fast, and that I'd trained for that speed. And so, yeah, I was looking at the Strava of my race after finishing, and from like start to Les Houches, about one of the first sections of the course. I have one of like the top 10 fastest times for women ever there. So like to run that section fast and to feel strong and steady the whole way was really exciting.
Yeah.
I saw some teammates, some friends, other runners that I know as I was going along, and we had some chats, but also it was kind of like focus time.
Go time. Yeah.
And it started pouring rain almost right away. So from the start, there was kind of no staying dry. I put on my raincoat immediately, and I actually wore my long sleeve shirt off the start, knowing we were heading into cooler temperatures. But yeah, I layered up right away. But heading into that first crude aid station, I was completely soaked. So the start is just fast and wild and exciting. And then I come up at Lake Contamine is the first place that I see my crew at about 32 kilometers. And knowing that that's so early and like a speedy point in the race, I had placed my younger brother there and just said, the goal is going to be in and out, grab my water bottles, grab my nutrition, and go. And at about, that point in the race, it starts to get dark. And so I grabbed my headlamp and put it on, leaving that aid station. And about 5 kilometers from Contamine is a place called Notre Dame de la Gorge. And that is known for anyone that's followed the race or seen the Hoka Tunnel. There's sort of these like big circles of light and a place where a lot of supporters will go. And I've heard it described as almost like a rave. Yeah. And as a runner going through these like giant tunnels at that point in the race, and then seeing these crowds of people has always been a pretty exciting point. So based on who we had on the support crew this year, I said, I'd love if I can get some people there. So we actually had Kelly, Nicole, and Steve go ahead to meet me there along the route. And kind of like, I told them it's going to be loud, but if you can like cut through the noise and I can hear you, like that would be a really nice way to go off into the night.
Yeah.
And Steve matched that energy and just took it to another level. He found me and ran alongside me just for a couple of steps and sent me off with some choice, excited words, and he said things like, "You eat hills for breakfast," and Steven's usually like a pretty calm, centered guy, and he said it was intense. I brought the intensity, and that was awesome because basically coming out of that climb, it it like I leave the towns and I leave this sort of noise of all the supporters, and it's like heading out from there into the night in the mountains.
Yeah.
And that was just so special to have this sort of send off. And then kind of right after that was when we got hit with weather. So it had been pouring rain off the start and cool, but heading out of Notre Dame into some of these sort of bigger, more remote sections that are quite exposed climbs, we got freezing rain and hail and sleet and like freezing temperatures in totally exposed parts of the trail. So I had known as the race was coming up that the weather was looking bad, and they had required us to carry extra mandatory cold weather kit. And I'd made some choices based on knowing I was likely going to need my cold weather kit and planning in advance how I was going to prepare. So as soon as the rain hit, I put on the rain jacket. But as soon as I left that section and I noticed the weather was starting with the sleet and the cold, I made a choice to stop on sort of a sheltered rock ledge on the side of the trail. And I got really cold because I had to take off my jacket in order to layer up again. So I had a moment of just getting so cold as I was pulling my 2 extra warm layers out of my vest and my 2 pairs of gloves that I put on. And I pulled my emergency blanket out because I find for myself when I get cold, I have trouble warming up. And one trick I've learned from other races is that, when I get cold, if I pull out my emergency blanket and put it under some of my layers, like my rain jacket, it will insulate and help to reflect that heat back. So I ran from there into Courmayeur wearing my emergency blanket the whole way. And it was the only way that I really stayed warm.
Wow.
And meanwhile, we're watching this weather roll in from our position at the aid station where we'd seen Kelsey at 30K, and you can't do anything. Like, that she's headed for 50K of this stuff. And while we're sitting there sort of through the night, watching her hit checkpoint after checkpoint, we got the alert that UTMB had made the decision, because the weather was so bad, that they were actually going to alter the course mid-race.
Wow.
And so I had actually gone back to get an extra hour and a half or so of sleep, and woke up to this news that they'd changed the course a little bit. So we knew it was really quite bad out there, quite tough out there. And actually that we probably would see Kelsey a little bit sooner than expected because they'd made that course change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it make the trail slick? Like, did the sleet and stuff make it slick?
It was just a mud fest. Like, I like to sort of describe like the start of my race, that first 30, maybe even like 40 kilometers I was racing. And the night just became about survival. It was about as cold as I've ever been, and I think about as close to dangerous as I've ever felt during a race. Just knowing, the only option really is to keep moving when you're between aid stations. Like, there's no stopping and warming up. Even some of the checkpoints along the way are just like tents with the generator, but you have to get out of there some way. So one of the ways that I had planned to deal with cold when it happened was to layer up and then just to keep moving. So even though I was so cold and my fingers were numb and my feet were numb, I just knew it was going to pass, and I knew I just had to get to the next checkpoint. And so as long as I was moving, I was generating enough heat. I did get to a point where I couldn't eat the nutrition that I'd planned because I couldn't open my gels in the night.
Right.
So if there's one sort of change I would have made, it would have been to plan more liquid carbs in my bottles, leaving that aid station ahead of it. But one of the ways I problem solved along the way was I put soup from a checkpoint into my bottle. So I had a little bit more
nice.
A little bit more food than planned. And that also had the added benefit of warming me up. I made the mistake of not telling my crew that I'd filled one bottle with soup. And so when they swapped it at a later aid station, I had like soup flavored exact electric.
Chicken flavored water.
Oh, yeah.
Chicken lime.
Yeah. At that point, it didn't matter. I just needed whatever was in there I was going to take. And that checkpoint through the night at Chakui was it was an uncrewed aid station, but it's a spot where a lot of runners were stopped or were sort of checked by medics. I think a lot of people had issues with the cold or were dealing with really low core body temperature. I had some support, to get the soup in my bottles and also to pull my pants out. So I put my waterproof pants on at that point too, and then just kept moving so I could stay warm. But heading through there, it was just so muddy. And I shared a little bit of that section with Lauren Puritz, who eventually came on to finish in the top 10 and be a top American woman. And it was just, I think we're all sort of in the same boat out there. Just, this is wild. Yeah. Like we just got to keep moving. And everyone was checking in on each other too. I think, when I stopped to pull my jacket out, another runner that I know, Alyssa Clark, at that point in the race stopped and said, "Oh, like, are you okay, Kelsey? Do you need anything? Are you warm enough?" And so even like at this point in the race, when I think I was around 14th place or so at that point, people are stopping and making sure you're okay and checking in with each other. So that really shines through and makes a difference when you're out there in such tough conditions. And through the night, I knew sort of from Lac Cambol to Courmayeur was a bit of a section that we'd scouted this year in the daytime. So I knew what to expect through there. And because we'd run it in the daytime in our training time ahead of the race, I knew a little bit of what I was running through. So even though it was still dark, I was thinking about the beautiful mountains that were around me and kind of the waterfall that I knew was by the course, and even like the cows and the horse that we'd seen in the daytime. This time when I ran by them at night and my headlamp lit up their eyes, I thought, "Oh, I know you guys. Like, I saw you. You're a familiar herd." And getting into Courmayeur, it's quite a technical descent. And honestly, at that point in the race, because it was a little bit more wet, it held the course together a little bit more. So it helped a little bit on that descent to have a bit of wetness on the trail. And I was getting there around sunrise, or it was still dark at this time. And last year when I ran it, it was about sunrise. So I could sort of measure my progress against myself based on the time of day and when I was getting to these places. But I pulled into Courmayeur and saw Laurie DeTurbid, my crew member I'd assigned there. And I ran through the checklist. I said, we're going to have to change everything. Pull out the new emergency blanket, get my fresh jacket, get my dry, everything sorted, change my shoes and socks because they were soaked, and keep going. And Adam's just pointed out to me there, we kept it to just 12 minutes in that whole checklist of things, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
And at that point too, another crew, my teammate Arden, her friend was crewing her, and he happened to be there around the same time too, so snapped a few photos and was offering support as well, which was really nice. Just to see familiar faces at that point made such a difference.
Yeah.
But we were focused, we were in and out. And apparently when I left that aid station, I yelled to my family that were there that I felt like a whole new person.
I bet.
And totally refreshed at that point. And even just the warmth of descending from, high in the mountains all the way back down to just lower elevation, the warmth started to pick back up again. So that made a big difference when I could feel my fingers again.
Great. That's a bonus.
Oh, such a bonus. Such a bonus. And so heading out of there, from Courmayeur, there's some pretty big climbs, and I knew to expect them at this point. And thankfully, other than not being able to have my gels through the night, I was eating and drinking really well through the race. So to get to the point where I was able to get back on my nutrition plan, felt really good around there. I just knew this is a huge climb, and to just take it and keep moving was really important. Seeing that whole section for me at sunrise this year too, there's like this big climb, and then we crest and run kind of along this beautiful ridge line through Italy at this point, and then kind of on our way to Switzerland. And I have just this image of the mountains at sunrise in my mind that will stick with me forever. And I think be one of the pieces of this race that I felt so full of gratitude to be finding flow on these trails after such a difficult night, and kind of finding my rhythm again, and really appreciating this place that I had the opportunity to be in. And yeah, I kind of descended from there to a place called Arnouvaz, and got to kind of run through that aid station pretty quickly as well. Tried to just get my fuel going again. And then after that is a pretty big climb up to a place called Grand Col Ferret. And along there, I started to team up with a couple of runners that I'd kind of been tagging back and forth with a little while. A guy named Jeff, who runs for On, that was kind of working his way up the climb around the same time as me. And so we struck up a couple of conversations, and we'd end up flip-flopping together at various points in the race. And I really appreciated just his approach and support. He had been running in podium position and hoping for a really great day. And it wasn't the day he was hoping for, but he still brought such positive energy to that point in the race. And it was around here too, I saw Emily Hoggood pulling out her jacket, and just, I'd heard stories of so many of these runners who were in such a strong position heading into the race and kind of favorites to win, that were having a hard time with the conditions too. And when I saw Emily up the Grand Col, she still had a smile on her face. She had stopped to pull out her jacket, and I said, are you good? Do you need anything? She said, no, I'm just getting warm. And she wished us well. And I think that spirit from so many runners through the race really was pretty special. And then, I started to have a bit of a rough time kind of a little bit after that descent. I think the cold from the night started to catch up with me, and being behind on that nutrition part. And when I saw my crew again at Champélac, I felt like I was moving slowly up the climb, but I was ready to work. And the climb out of Champélac to Triant is just never ending in a lot of ways. And by the time I saw them at Triant, I was having a little bit of a low moment. I came into there, and it was my mom at that aid station. And I'd seen Adam at Champélac, and he'd kept me focused and kind of ready to go, and sent me on my way. And by the time I came to Triant, I just said, I'm sort of sad because I'm not moving as fast as I want to be. And it was at that point in the race last year where I started to really be able to pick up. And I wanted to have different legs. I wanted to have finishing legs. And when I left that aid station, Adam reminded me to run with the legs that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really joined me in my little pity party that I was trying to have. They all just said, you're doing great. You're still ahead of last year. Like, just remind yourself of why you're here. Before the race, I told them, whether I was having a good day or a really bad day, it was going to be hard. And so when I came in there, they helped me to remember that as well. Like, it was hard because I was working, and that was exactly where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I turned it around pretty quickly, leaving that aid station. They sent me off in pretty good spirits, and with some reminders of the things I wanted to hold true. And I kind of carried that energy through. And when I saw them next at Valenciennes, so these sort of final sections from aid station to aid station where I saw my crew, it was basically like I went up a mountain and then down a mountain and saw them again. And coming into Valenciennes, as I was approaching the descent, I saw Alyssa Clark again, who had been running in about 7th position all the way through the race and had fallen back after a tough night as well. And she and I have raced together a little bit in the past. And so she shared some words of encouragement and said, she was going to work through what she needed to work through. And she stopped at that aid station for a while and then really rallied to grind out a finish that I think is incredibly admirable.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any runner that I recommend you follow after this race, I think Alyssa Clark is worth looking up. Just a really kind human and supportive at that moment too. But yeah, I came into Valersine, and my younger brother had actually met me kind of up the climb. He did, I think, more climbing and running in this race than he has in a very long time.
Yeah.
So he went almost a kilometer out to meet me and sort of cheer me in. And I wanted my crew to know that I was feeling a bit better coming into that point in the race. So I started cheering, and when I saw the rest of the team, I came around the corner and I said, because the last time they'd seen me, I was feeling a bit low. And so I just yelled, "I love running!" And they knew it back in. And I met my dad in there. He was sort of my final aid station support. And I walked in and I said, "We're just getting in and out. What do we need to do? Let's go." And we were pretty quick in there. I think all of 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
And I didn't have speed in my legs, but I was using everything I had. And so I was moving slowly, but I was focusing on moving as fast as I could. And I was still eating and drinking. And I thought, I can control how much effort I'm putting out, and I can control my mindset. And so I stayed present with that and ran some of my favorite parts of the course. And one highlight of that final section was that our Airbnb hosts, Claire and Jean-Marc, and their dog met me before the final climb just behind their house. And I hadn't known that they were going to be there, but they'd been tracking. And they brought such good energy at a point when I was moving pretty slowly and sent me off all the way to the finish. And yeah, I made that final climb just kind of at dusk, reached the top of the ski hill at La Flégère just as night was falling. And so it was about 9 p.m. and I knew the final section was just going to be a twisty descent, but I was going to take it as fast as I could. And at that point, that was not feeling very fast, but it was, using all of my muscles in whatever way I could get them to fire. And yeah, came into the city in Chamonix to hear crowds screaming, and my teammates from Norda had met me out and were there to cheer me into the finish. I rounded the corner and there was still hundreds of people lining the chute and lining the finish line in through the town. And I went across the final corner and saw my whole crew waiting behind the finish arch, and all of my Norda teammates and supporters. And finished honestly with nothing left in the tank and feeling so happy and satisfied with the race that I'd had.
Yeah.
And yeah, a whole hour faster than the year before, and 16th
Amazing.
overall for women. So I was pretty happy about that. I was chasing a faster time and I think a higher finish, but I also, when I finished that race, I knew that I'd given it everything for that, what I had in me that day.
Yeah, it's amazing. We saw the finish and we just couldn't believe, here we have someone from our area we've run races with, 16th in this massive group of women. We were just all so proud when you ran across the finish line. And so it was like a win for all of us here in the Maritimes. We were just so thrilled. We all had a big smile on our face. It was amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that, guys. You've been really generous with your time. And I know I just have one really quick technical question for you. And you mentioned Norda, and I just wondered, how did your shoes, how did Norda hold up on the trails? Because did both of you run in Norda? Because I know, Adam, you run in them as well. So how did you feel running in them, giving them that kind of mileage? How did they hold up?
They held up great for me. I ran in the 001s the whole way. I had 2 pairs that I alternated between, and yeah, they did the trick. I don't know what else to say other than that. I felt confident in them. I trained in them leading up to the race. There's a little bit of a choice between whether I might run in 005s or 001s, but the ones were the right choice for me for sure. Gave me a little bit of extra grip. And
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I would say is that Norda or any other shoe just smells awful after. So if they could figure that out,
Right.
any brand could figure that out, I might, I might be knocking on their door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I chose to race in their 005, which is sort of their lighter, faster super shoe without a carbon plate. And I had 2 pairs, so I switched halfway through to the same model of shoes. And yeah, they were super. And for me, like knowing it was going to be so wet and muddy, like their grip is not quite as big as the 001, but they're still perfect for those trails. And they're so light that I just feel like that extra speed boost out there. And I think having gear that you have tested and run a lot in heading into a big race like this makes a difference. So I really felt like I could trust a lot of what we were using, like shoes to socks. Like we run in these socks called Near Earth, that we both have found really, really, like, for me, like I finished and had no blisters. So that
Amazing.
Same
combo
for
is
me.
perfect.
Honestly, first race probably I can ever say that. Like it was almost astonishing how good of a shape my feet were in at the end of this one. Like other than the smell, but
Yeah, that's right.
And we both ran in Chance clothes too. So my whole kit was made by Chance Running. And just a little plug for them. They're a company that was co-founded by Christian Meyer, who's originally from Sussex, New Brunswick, now based in Girona, Spain. And yeah, Christian won TDS a few years ago. So
That's right.
it's a pretty cool little New Brunswick connection.
Yeah, connection there.
Yeah.
We should all get our stuff. That's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do.
I think like one of the feelings that we both had from this race, when you talk about New Brunswickers and people following along, like truly it sounds cheesy to say it, but when you're out there, like for me, and it's just like me in the mountains and I'm moving and I'm thinking of all the reasons that I'm there and what matters in those moments, I feel this sense of connection to everyone, like everyone who's following, who's sending their energy, who's ever sent a message or been part of a race of their own that we've got to take part in. Like all of that is with me out there.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference.
Oh, that's awesome. Kelsey, Adam, thanks so much for your time. Jeff, do you want to throw anything in there before we wrap up?
I just have one question, maybe one each. But Adam, you made a joke saying you're not running elite yet. Does that mean that like that's on the horizon, or was that a joke? Not to put you on the spot.
No, well, all I mean, I think by that is that when you get to run around athletes like Kelsey and the people that run at her part in the race, you, I think, have to go through a process of reminding yourself that wherever you finish in the race is a valuable finish. It's a really meaningful result for you, and it's something to be proud of. And I think I've arrived there where I'm quite pleased with where I was in the race, and my life does not depend on ascending to a higher level in the sport. And I think I might have mentioned this last time we talked, that like I feel like if I have to be able to own where I'm running and to celebrate that, because what kind of message am I sending to anybody else if I can't own and celebrate where I am? But I think like where the joke is, or where that little comment comes from, is there's also a sense of possibility that comes with running around Kelsey, and also just continuing to put in the work. And I've read a bunch of commentary from various elite runners that say like, this result didn't happen in my last training block. It didn't happen in my last 2 training blocks. It happened like 6 years ago or 8 years ago, or it started 8 years ago. And the only reason I'm here is because I've been stacking, you know, year after year. And each race does, even though I sort of say after every one, oh, I'm going to retire after this one, it does give you that, like, I don't know if anybody plays golf, but it gives you that feeling when you hit like a really good shot on the 18th hole. You're like, oh, okay, maybe I should play again.
Only need that one shot per game, man.
Yeah. So all I mean by running in the elite category is, not yet, is that who knows, right? Like I shouldn't block it. And if I keep putting in the work, maybe some progress on the leaderboards will come for me too. And it has already happened in lots of ways for me this season. I had experiences of, I won a race this year. I'd never won a race before. That was astonishing. And so cool. And so, yeah, that's my joke. That's not the power of yet,
Yeah.
not yet.
That's not a joke at all. I think that's a great way to explain it. And it's that's good. What's recovery been like, and what's next? Like, is UTMB just going to happen every year until you win it, Kelsey? Because we all believe you can do it. So let's
Thank
go.
you. I mean, I think when it comes to UTMB, I would like to run it again, but I said 3 years in a row, I think I can put it to rest for a little while. I still think that there's more I can do on that course, but there are so many incredible races out there and so many that I think just feel aligned with how I want to, explore and connect with places and mountains and communities. And so I think there's some other projects out there for the next year, maybe a couple of years. And I bet I'll be back one day. I have some goals there still. And I think what's next for right now and what recovery has been like. I didn't put anything on my calendar officially after UTMB. I wanted to really give myself the runway to go all out and then see how my body recovered afterwards. And we've had some just nice slow weeks, and I think a sense of like unstructured running again, and I'm starting to get itchy to put some new goals on the calendar. And there might be some more races this fall, and just like a couple of things that could be exciting. But for both of us, I think we're starting to look ahead to next race season, and I'm starting to think about which races I might want to target as some big A races, um, and thinking about how to do that and what kind of support I need to do that. And this is kind of a nice season for reflection and starting to plan ahead and dream and get excited again. But I feel really good after this race, and so I think I feel some energy from that to kind of carry on with it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you both should.
Yeah, and I think that's something that comes up for both of us is just this real feeling of connection to various parts of the running community. And the longer we spend in it and the longer we spend connecting with people in all different parts of it, you feel more and more responsibility to contribute to it and more energy, honestly, to contribute to it because you have a sense of maybe what your place is within this I don't know, I've used the word community a lot, but within this community. And so I think that's something that's on both of our radars and has been nice as we've come back from UTMB is to just, have chats like this with people and hear about what they're excited about and share our excitement and find out about the races that are coming and the dreams people have for races that are coming and just, be there and be immersed in it and think about how we can make it a more inclusive place for people and and just celebrate all that it is. So that's a big part of I think what returning home has been like for us is just reintegrating into what it is here and also just like what's been going on while we've been focused on this particular goal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
No, that's fantastic, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. And you guys are leading a Learn How to Trail Run group, is that right? So you guys get to do some of that fun stuff. So that'll be great.
Kicks off, I don't know when this will air, but October 2nd here and Thursday evening. So we're so excited to be part of that with a great coaching team here and led by Keely Hopkins, and Stacey McLean will be joining us there. And yeah, just to share some love for trail running and help more people discover it and really ease them into that together.
Well, I'm sure they're going to learn the love of trails from you too. And so thank you again for being with us. And we can't wait to chat again when you guys head off to your next big project.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you on the trails soon.
I'm sure. Sure. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, that was our conversation with Adam and Kelsey. And like, as usual, they're just the sweetest people in the world. And so humble in how they describe their race. But they're running at pretty great levels, like it's just amazing to hear how they've gone through it. I was just captivated by it.
Oh, absolutely. And I like how they just grazed over the fact, and I didn't want to bring it up because it was getting long, and I'm sure they want to go to bed, so it was late night. But they grazed over the fact that Adam ran 150K and had like 2 days break, and then was like helping crew and stuff. Like, I would still be in bed now,
right?
A month later, I'd be like, I still can't walk properly. Like, I don't know what's going on here. And this guy gets up after running, 9,000 meters of elevation or whatever it was, and just goes and helps out the next 2 days. I mean, I get it, the motivation of doing that. I mean, Kelsey's running a big race, and I'm sure he wanted to be there, but I can only imagine how stiff he was, going up and
Right.
down the stairs for a couple of days, trying to get things done for that. So
I'd be looking for whatever gondolas or
right,
like whatever cows I got to ride to get up to the top of the.
right.
Like I would just be trying to find whatever way I could. But yeah, I thought of that too. Actually, it was like, how stiff was he getting up those mountains to get to the aid stations?
Right.
It would be
It-
pretty
it's just
brutal.
being awake for basically 2.5 days, and then like I think I would be sleeping and brain dead for a good couple days. I mean,
I'd be
I
eating
guess
lots of eclairs.
we're
Yeah,
in a definitely different league, right? So
Yeah,
we,
that's
we
right.
are brain dead after 40K and
That's
3
right.
days.
We haven't
useless.
gotten to that elite status yet. We're not in that corral yet. We'll have to work towards it. But
Yeah.
I did like that part he mentioned, the power of yet. Like it's just potential there. So that's a good reminder too that we all have
Yes, dude.
potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a really great conversation. I really appreciated it, and I appreciate them too. They're just some of the nicest people on planet Earth, I think. So
Absolutely. My kids still ask me every race I go to, is Kelsey going to be there? Is Kelsey going to be there? I don't know. Maybe. Come watch me finish and find out. And which do you think smells worse, the shoes at the end of the race or that bathroom stall that only had one bathroom at the 100-kilometer mark?
Yeah, I imagine they're pretty similar.
That
I
bathroom
can't
had to be
imagine.
wrecked, man.
I can't imagine. I mean, you probably got to burn the shoes after you're done, right? Like they're never going to be the same.
Yeah, maybe.
Like they'll probably never be the same. But anyway, well, it was great having a conversation with them, and I'm sure everyone listening has their own takeaways from that conversation. But it was just awesome to hear them talk about it, and
It was
we've
like
got
you there.
people. We've got people running a great race right now. Another UTMB race, the Nice Côte d'Azur. We've got Tim McDonough and Brian Demings are running that. As this podcast comes out, and so we're cheering them on as they run. I mean, have you ever seen like some of those areas like where they're running at though? Like,
I mean, I just saw Tim. I mean, I know I posted on Instagram, like, I hope you guys enjoy following Tim's Instagrams as much as we do. Like, that wasn't even close to being a joke. I really enjoy seeing his posts. Like,
yeah,
it's like I'm in France with him.
right.
Like, I've never traveled.
Right.
And I don't like traveling because I'm not a big fan of being on planes and being in lines and stuff. But, so I don't know that I ever will that much. But it's nice to see. And yeah, like, the place where they're staying looks amazing.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
Côte d'Azur, I think, is like tropical. Like I think it's a paradise. I don't think they're going to be running through paradise, but I do think they started in it. Like there was like palm trees in the background and everything. Like it's just
crazy.
South of France kind of stuff, and so you hear lots of great things about that. But I can't wait to hear from them, and hopefully we can get them on the pod to debrief some of their adventures as well. So.
Yeah.
Whether you're listening in Sussex or Côte d'Azur or Chamonix, wherever you are, keep on chasing the trails.